what is pricing strategy? It's knowing what you're charging for and getting a fair price for the value that you provide. There are numerous ways to do that. I sort of think there's about 9 different pricing models or strategies, if you like, sort of starting from some that are sort of generally developed in a business. They're very inward focused. So that's things like cost plus pricing, which about 70 to 80% of companies do. All they do is they add up their costs, throw on a margin, cross their fingers and hope for the best. And you've got things like market-driven pricing. So you just let the competitor set your price. Non-linear pricing, you see that in a lot of utilities where there's a charge to be on a network and then there's a charge for what goes through the network. And then you've got the dynamic pricing and revenue management that the airlines became famous for and have been transferred over to the hotels and things like that. So there's sort of 4 sort of inward looking or inward developed pricing models. Then you've got some pricing models that are co-created with customers, which are generally value-based pricing. You've got some that are completely created by the customer. So auctions, for example, at the end of the day, a company provides the mechanism for the auction, but the customer is the one that actually determines the price. And then you've got things like pay what you want pricing. So Jon Bon Jovi has a restaurant or 2 in New Jersey, and the pricing is pay what you want. But if you can't pay, you do have to do the dishes for an hour instead, which is a little bit different to Lentil as Anything here in Melbourne. But they were a pay what you want model. And they probably got, I think they got cleaned out by a drunken party after one Melbourne Cup. And there's always this argument, is pricing art or is pricing science? And I sort of come down firmly on the art side because, most sciences have a repeatable law of, body of law. So someone can come along and repeat it. But with pricing, you're dealing with human behaviour, and what someone's prepared to pay for a Damien Hirst or a Warhol is completely different from the next person, right? So there's nothing repeatable or scientific about pricing, and there's no definition or dictionary of pricing and so forth. So some of those strategies that I just mentioned, for one company they're a strategy, and for another company they're a tactic. Using time, for example, airlines use time really well. The earlier the book, the cheaper you fly, and that's using it as a strategy. But then you've got a retailer like a JB Hi-Fi who might say, we've got a special on big TVs, but you've got to buy it before the grand final because it's a grand final special, and they're using it tactically. So there's no real hard and fast rules in pricing. It's just, the critical thing is knowing where you're going and why. And I always like to think, a strategy is, you've got a strategy when you know what your next move is after your competitor responds to your next move. Because some people just actually don't look beyond, what their next pricing move is, never mind what the competitor's going to do.
Yeah.